Okay, let's check with the organizations who say they need the infrastructure money the most. Of course, that's Canada's municipalities for their view on whether the government's meeting its promises on infrastructure spending. Jenny Gerbasi is the president of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. She is the deputy mayor of the city of Winnipeg and joins me via Skype from there this evening. Jenny Gerbasi, great to see you again. Thanks for taking time to speak with me tonight. It's good of you to take the time.
Thank you. Good evening.
This government made some big promises on infrastructure spending to help rebuild communities and boost the economy. Is the government, in your view and in the view of your colleagues at the municipal level, living up to those promises?
Yes, we do feel that phase one, announced in the 2016 budget, is working. You know, we appreciate there was an extension of time for some of the projects. And in Winnipeg, for example, and it's the same thing I'm hearing across the country, but in my hometown of Winnipeg, we are seeing projects shovel-ready and in the ground and happening, such as transit, wastewater, transit garage expansion. We are seeing a whole bunch of projects in the ground in my town, and that's what I'm hearing from my colleagues across the country.
We have heard about problems in getting the money out the door to the point where the government, as you mentioned, has extended phase one of the program that was to be completed this March after 2 years for, in some cases, an extra 3 years for some of these projects. What's causing the delays in getting these projects completed? What are you seeing?
Well, it was a short-term time frame to design the program, and the money rolled out. We're happy with the flexibility that the extensions give us, and we're really looking forward to the second phase where there's going to be a longer-term time frame for all of this. So there's going to be time to, if we can get these details right and we can get the program rolled out, then we'll have time to get the projects done. In this case, it was a very short time frame. We were glad to see the money flowing, and we're glad to see the flexibility to allow the projects to be completed.
So what would cause delays in some of these projects? Is it a bunch of things? Is it just getting submissions in? Is it labor issues, weather? What slowed down some of these projects in phase one?
Well, the reality is municipalities operate in a long-term way. We do 5-year capital plans. We have our projects ready, but it takes time. It takes, so all the planning needs to be done. So that's why a long-term program like in the second phase is so much more important. We'll have predictable long-term funding to plan these projects properly and do it right. And so we won't need those kind of extensions. This was a short-term rollout in 2016 that happened quite quickly. We're obviously glad to have the investment, and the next phase is a much longer-term and more predictable process that we can plan for much better. And that's really important to our level of government to get those projects done properly.
Yeah, the minister describes the delays as really not delays in projects. He describes it as essentially bookkeeping, that the projects are well underway. It's just the federal money doesn't flow out to pay off for those projects, the federal share, until the bills come in from the municipalities. Is that what's happening as you see it?
Absolutely. I mean, in Winnipeg, we've got bike lane projects underway. We've got transit garages expansion. Everything's flowing along, but until those projects are complete, the money doesn't flow. So the timeline extension that flexibility is helpful for Winnipeg, and it's helpful for communities across the country.
So you seem to be suggesting that because the promise of the plan was a major infrastructure plan that would create jobs, boost the middle class, fix infrastructure, obviously, and repair communities across the country, and lift local communities. And you're saying that's what your members are seeing?
Well, we are, and this phase two, which is being negotiated right now with the provincial and federal governments, is really significant. This is a long-term investment, and that's where we're really going to see the significant transformational change in infrastructure across the country. You know, the municipal level of government is ready to do these projects on climate change. We want to scale up our efforts. You know, I can give you a few local examples. We're talking about electrification of buses, things like that. We need the federal green infrastructure. We're talking about money for housing. We're talking about money for transit, roads, all of these things, wastewater. All of these things are going to be part of improving the local economy, investing in our communities, and rebuilding our country, creating the quality of life that people need. And all of those things require long-term planning. And we at the municipal sector plan our budgets for more than 5 years, a 5-year capital plan.
One of the things we're hearing, I mean, this next phase, the government's trying to reach a deal with the provinces by the end of March on how to share costs. And that's one of the issues, one of the key issues here, of course. What do municipalities want to see? Because I know you've been involved in the conversation around how the cost sharing should work for phase two.
Well, we want full and fair cost sharing. That's certainly a key point. The federal government has come to the table with 40% commitment, and we want a 40-40-20 split. We want
a lot of provinces say they don't want to pay that much, though. I think they're at the 30% level now. They want to stay there. They don't want to pay anymore.
Well, our position is we feel that that full and fair cost sharing is really key so that we have the local capacity to make these projects happen. Municipal sector gets 10% of the tax revenue. We need a higher share, and we need a full and fair cost sharing from all levels of government. So we do want that. The longer term nature of the funding is really important for our planning. We want to have flexibility. We want this to be usable by all sizes of communities. So
when you say flexibility, what do you mean? I mean, was that one of the problems in phase one? Was it too rigid at all, and you want more leeway to do different things than maybe are clearly specified in the government's plan?
Well, we want to have municipal sector. We're not all cookie cutter communities, and we have different priorities. We want to have projects that fit with our priorities that are planned and are in our budgets. As I said, we do long-term planning. So that's one of the things. We also need to have the capacity and be ready to go. So that's one of the things. The first one was short-term, and there just wasn't time. The projects it was a very, very short timeline to come up with the projects, and we want municipalities to have a role in the project selection.
All right,
that's a key piece as well.
Let's finish on this. Another key piece of the infrastructure plan is the infrastructure bank. Good idea. Do you think municipalities will actually be looking to take advantage of this and take part, look for investment in projects that come their way with input and money to be made by the private sector?
We see it as another tool in the toolbox. It's an option. We appreciate that it's additional money that's not a requirement, like the P3 that program before was. There had to be a forced P3 screen. That's been removed, and so it's an option. It's something that's available to those municipalities that feel this is something that will work for them. So in that sense, we feel it's very positive.
Okay, thanks for your input tonight, Jenny Gerbasi, the president of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Good to talk to you, to get your sense of where the government's at and this promise to on its infrastructure plan. Always good to get your perspective, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.